What's up? It's Reiki. Hey, that's called a greeting in the real world. You should really watch those YouTube videos. Oh, yeah, the title. You just came for your daily dose of GD. Don't worry, I'll fix you up right away. Did you know that, a new top 1 got verified? That's so insane. No? Well, what do you want from me then? Surely you care about stuff other than GD. Studies, sports, hobbies. Right? No, I'm sorry. Don't feel sad. It's fine. We can talk about Geometry Dash. Did you know that another 2.2 sneak peek got released? That means it's gonna come out soon. After so many years, level after level, they haven't sated the hunger. Now we will finally be granted with all of the new features we deserve. An endless array of gimmicks to toy with. An endless stream of content to play through. We'll grind level after level, click pattern after click pattern, staring into the effects as they entrance and hypnotize us. Then it will finally be fun again. I will finally feel something again. School? Hobbies? We don't need them. GD will never end. You can play it forever and ever. You have nothing else. You cannot escape. You will never find closure. Closure. It's what I sought from Geometry Dash by making this video. But what's so harmful about GD? Sure, Geometry Dash has its bugs and glitches, but that's quirky, it's indie. Geometry Dash is a passion project, just a simple 2D platformer. But then you wonder, surely if a developer made a game like Geometry Dash without all the bugs and glitches, it would be hugely successful. Why aren't there any games like Geometry Dash? After having this question for many years, I finally found the answer. The more I played Geometry Dash, the less of a simple 2D platformer it became. Whether it was grinding or creating levels, no matter the outcome, it never ended in satisfaction. All GD did was take from me. The more time I sunk in, the more I felt compelled to keep sinking time in, displacing other things in my life. Online school, clubs, talking to my friends and family, they all gave way to GD. Through forced withdrawal, through relapse, through weaning myself off of it, GD lingered in my mind. The thought of changing something, the thought of closure. So I began to work on this video. Want to know why there aren't any games like Geometry Dash? Because GD is a virus, a disease which corrupts the brain. But to treat GD, we must first study its origin. GD's instant virality is something of a freak accident, because there was a game like Geometry Dash that was hugely successful, and all Geometry Dash did was copy it. As its name implies, the Impossible game appealed to weird, nerdy children, an amateurish, ugly game. Its simple yet rage-inducing gameplay made for easily digestible, kid-friendly YouTube videos, where gaming personalities had tantrums over a bunch of shapes. RobTop created Geometry Dash, which followed the same formula and gained similar traction. But the thing that kept these children playing Geometry Dash over the Impossible game was the ability to create and publish levels. GD had gained the ability to reproduce. Geometry Dash is influenced by two forces. The developer RobTop has the power to officially set level standards, and as time has gone on, he has found more and more ways of doing this. The players, a group of eccentric young children, make the levels, and have power over which levels become popular and which do not. But these two forces are not independent of each other. RobTop's marketing of Geometry Dash introduces certain players to the game. The player's interest in certain levels influences RobTop to endorse these levels over others, and this occurs more directly through the moderation system. In this way, GD and its hosts were self-sustained and secluded from the outside world. Now they would slowly mutate, trapped in this whirlpool, a downward spiral with no chance of help from the outside, an impermeable bubble of mental deficiency. What was once a throwaway fan game is now a deformed, unrecognizable monster. Before I go on, I need to clarify a few things. This video is based off my own personal experience playing Geometry Dash, and it is out of deep empathy that I speak so harshly towards the Geometry Dash community. Many people might consider me a contrarian for criticizing Geometry Dash so broadly, but sometimes, when everyone believes the same thing, it is the contrarian who speaks the truth. And finally, no, I'm not trying to dictate how people should play Geometry Dash like how some people in this community do. In fact, I believe in greater creative freedom, as opposed to the Geometry Dash elites. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Time to diagnose the virus. Skill in Geometry Dash. What is it exactly? Not even the community seems to know, given the amount of misconceptions there are. On the surface, Geometry Dash levels may seem humanly impossible, but once you remove the visuals and focus on what the player is doing, it becomes far simpler. This has been the case since Geometry Dash's roots, a seemingly impossible game. The rage game archetype features 3 gameplay aspects: reliance on one input, having to restart if you make a mistake, and every attempt being the same. Levels were meant to feel frustrating through the monotonous gameplay and the unfair deaths. This perfectly suited rage games like Geometry Dash. But when players started taking the game seriously, there was a problem. Once you knew where to click and where not to, you could just beat the level. There was no coordination or improvisation in Geometry Dash. The only skill was visual memory. Hard levels started to utilize visual memory more and more, but these simply took the player longer to learn before instantly beating. But there was one other method of making levels harder: timings. Over time, this replaced visual memory as the most commonly tested skill in hard levels. But this came with its own faults, because you could only make these timings so hard before they became less about skill and more about, you guessed it, muscle memory. Here's the gist of it. For every click, there is the window of precision your finger clicks at versus the window of precision which the timing allows. You divide the latter by the former and you get the consistency at that particular timing, or the chance of you passing the timing. The more you play a particular timing, the lower your window of precision gets, the greater your consistency is, and the higher chance you have of passing the timing. The better muscle memory you have, the faster you'll build consistency. But what about that chance? Well, depending on how lucky you get, you can pass the timing regardless of your consistency, and the more time you spend playing Geometry Dash levels, the more likely it is that you get lucky. See what I'm getting at? Muscle memory and time is all it takes to be a good Geometry Dash player. The achievements in this game require no hardship or skill like in other games or sports, and are of no significance to the wider world, because this is a game made solely for children. If you think I'm jealous of these Geometry Dash players, then you don't understand my point. Mindlessly playing this game has become the norm, and it has spread to casual players too. Levels which challenge coordination or improvisation are labelled as gimmicky and never progress. Instead, levels are getting shorter and shorter, packing in faster and more repetitive click patterns, hypnotizing the player. For this reason, thousands of children are wasting away, passively playing this game just to fulfill their shrinking attention spans. All the while their mental health is slowly eroded. Constant stress, anger issues, self-loathing, lack of social interaction, they are all symptoms of GD. And this is only the first way in which people lose their life to the virus. If you thought the last part was scathing, things are about to go up a notch. Geometry Dash didn't just suck in addicted players, but addicted creators as well. What do I mean by that? Well, since GD could replicate without any external input, most levels took heavy inspiration from other rated levels. As a result, tropes and trends were commonplace, entirely driven by RobSop's rating standards. creators would make the same levels over and over again. Not only was this addictive behavior easy, but it was enabled by RobSop through rewards and status. I can hear you saying, but things changed, right? Yeah, they did. For the worse. The community never addressed GD's toxic reproductive cycle and instead blamed simplism for the laziness and incompetency of past trends. Geometry Dash's textures were ugly by design. It seemed impossible for them to look good on their own. So when RobSop was pressured out of rating simple levels, creators had to adapt. This was the beginning of a new, more insidious trend: over-decoration. Now the incompetent and lazy creators could simply overstimulate the viewer, compensating for the level's ugliness. The worst case of this was the core style, but prominent community figures soon turned on these levels, and RobSop stopped rating them. However, that didn't solve the problem. Over-decoration spread to other levels, disguised under different styles. Art levels, design levels, effects levels, experimental levels, even modern levels fell victim to over-decoration. These levels, which the community regard as the gold standard, are not good in the slightest. Sure, they like the ugliness of their predecessors, but they still share a conceptual flaw. You see, when a level includes absolutely everything, there is really nothing unique about it. These levels have no long-lasting impact, they are simply a brief rush of dopamine for the viewer. It is the pop music of Geometry Dash, and it is warped creative standards. A level's quality is entirely one-dimensional now. The more it looks like something on the featured page, the better it is. There's no such thing as nuance or subjectivity. You just have to tick all those boxes and fill the screen with as many things as possible. Meanwhile, no effort is to be spent considering the theming, progression, or even a unique song. You want to subvert the paradigm because you think that less is more sometimes? That's not a real level. Those aren't the features which a level is supposed to have. You want to disturb the viewer? No, you can't do that. People don't want to feel disturbed, they just want more dopamine. If you can't run these perfect exemplar levels, it's your fault that you can't afford a $3,000 gaming PC, and it's RobSop's fault for not optimizing his game. Even though early creators made masterpieces within 10,000 objects with far less variety than we have today. But I guess those are outdated now, because the creating community has become devoid of emotion, dedication, and inspiration. They don't see the creative merit in levels anymore, they only see products for them to consume. The talented creators spend hours toiling away at their desks to create these products to be instantly forgotten. Then there's everyone else, the background noise. The few who try to make genuine levels don't receive constructive criticism. They get savagely picked apart. All of their creative potential is overlooked. As such, most have given up on making something impactful because they think they lack the drive and talent to do so. Most levels today are cries of frustration, chaotic abstract heaps, just another ID within a sea of cacophony. Why do people find this funny? It's sad. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Around the world, millions of children are growing up with GD. For many, the virus has completely taken over their brains. Isn't it crazy that everyone who plays Geometry Dash knows everything about it? Every big video, every bit of lore, that everyone who plays this game just can't get enough because they're so desperate for that next bit of mental stimulus? Geometry Dash players are obsessed. They talk about Geometry Dash to their friends, they will bring up Geometry Dash whenever it's tangentially related, and they celebrate every moment Geometry Dash gets a shred of mainstream attention. They put Geometry Dash first and their own lives second, and will then make light of the fact that they are losing human touch because of GD. These people really joke about third base when they're still on base -3. And these children aren't trading social points for intellect either, let me tell you. The community is in a bubble. They are completely ignorant about the wider world, lacking any culture or wisdom or knowledge. This stupidity feeds directly back into Geometry Dash problems, illustrated nowhere better than community discussion, or the lack thereof. People don't discuss in this community. They use logical fallacies, snide comments, unprovoked aggression, thought-terminating cliches, ranting and insults. The community wastes their energy on the statements that are easiest to dismiss, the so-called hot takes, which some 12-year-old came up with. Debating someone with a thought-out argument would require too much intelligence for these Geometry Dash players. They would rather self-indulgently parrot the opinion of a few others, without actually acting on their beliefs. The movements in this game have involved the community collectively whining about something until they get their way. They don't spend time and effort to pursue a complex cause. That would require facing adversity and hardship, and having a longer attention span. Just like their own lives, they'd rather joke about GD's problems than solve them. It's clear that the community have stuck their heads in the sand, conserving the status quo and enabling the elites. Who are the elites? Well, they're the ones who profit off the warped standards in this game. Dominating contests and competitions, influence on what RobTop rates, herding the brainless masses of impressionable young children, exploiting them for fame and attention. They have a vice grip on the community. Meanwhile, the bottom feeders pick up the scraps with clickbait videos and fake completions. None of this is going to change just because you think it's bad. Those with power benefit from the system. They have no reason to push for change. All of these problems are just going to stay as they are. Players will still idolize mindless grinding, creators will still revere soulless levels, the community will remain divided and complacent. And if nothing changes, then things are only going to get worse. For a 30-minute video deconstructing Geometry Dash, you might be surprised that I've gone so far without mentioning the most glaring issue. The thing that has evoked hope, frustration, and doubt across the community. The topic which spawned a giant inside joke, which has remained unfunny to this day. The event that the community is unified in anticipation of. Of course, the issue is that 2.2 will be released very soon. Well, count me out of the hype, because I couldn't be more worried about what's looming around the corner. After almost 6 years, the new update seems closer than ever. The thing that is meant to be saving GD will do exactly the opposite. Sure, this isn't the first time that an update has sparked fear-mongering, but 2.0 is a bug fix in comparison. This update includes more features than the past 3 combined. And to top it off, one feature, the crowning jewel of the update, will be the final evolution of Geometry Dash. Once 2.2 sets in, this unrecognizable mess of a game will cease existing entirely. Here's how it will go. After everyone has their dopamine rush, after everyone has their brief moment of bliss, after everyone gets to play with the random trigger and the camera controls and the reverse mode, the new icons and gauntlets, that's when Geometry Dash will stop being Geometry Dash. Because no matter how many new gimmicks there are, the real Geometry Dash, the one-input auto-scroller, will see the status quo remain. The elites still having creative control and the standards still being flawed. The free thinkers in the community, those who try to make a broken game work, they will finally give up and move on to the newer, more conventional Geometry Dash. Just another 2D platformer amongst the hundreds of others. Left behind will be the addicted, brain-dead children, stuck in their habitual ways, passively playing the old Geometry Dash as they slowly rot. What once was Geometry Dash, the only game like it, will be slowly forgotten about, alongside all of the potential it had. GD will die, and nobody will care. The community are too addicted to care. They will continue to abide by the will of RobTop and the elites. The elites don't care, as I've already shown. Does RobTop care? No. RobTop has gotten everything he could have possibly wanted from this game. He's a millionaire. He's set. He will never need to work a single day in his life. The only thing that will make him happy is milking more money from the diseased GD udder, even if that means killing it. So, it's hopeless then? Well, there are some people who care. People have tried to treat GD. We've seen creative subversion in this game. Creative subversion which is the equivalent to a mini renaissance. But like the Renaissance, these new ideas are not having an impact on the wider community. Most players and creators are toiling away, doing the same thing day after day with no return, servants to the elites. The pioneers aren't solving this because the status quo rewards them too. These creators have a monopoly on their new ideas, so they are the standard of quality for said ideas. As such, they are rewarded with praise and creator points simply for originality alone, without them needing to improve on execution. With the godlike rating around the corner, we could see creators strive for that, but if 2.1 is anything to go off, godlike will see the same fate as epic, overused and devalued. The elites don't want to see creators reach for the skies. They would rather bribe them, keep them doing the same thing, keep everything the same. There is no treatment to GD. It would involve the entire community working together to inhibit GD's reproductive cycle. The only way to convince the community that a cure is necessary is by showing how bad GD can get. When I said that 2.2 was the biggest problem in GD, well, I lied. Because everything I said about people losing their lives to GD is exaggerated. It's a metaphor. People may be wasting their lives to GD, but nobody has gotten their life ruined as a result of GD, because Geometry Dash is just a $4 cube game, right? Well, that's what parents think when they let their kids play this game. But, as we've shown, Geometry Dash isn't just a $4 cube game, and there are lots of older people wasting their lives on this game, social recluses with mental problems. Today, we are focusing on the worst subset of these people, pedophiles. In the past few years, we've seen more and more cases of grooming in this community. That's not because it only began a few years ago, no. Kids are only now speaking up against their groomers because it took them years before realizing the trauma they experienced. Throughout this community's existence, there have probably been hundreds of grooming cases which nobody knows about. This game is a harbor for pedophiles, and yet the community ignores the cause of the problem. Is it the parents' fault for letting their kids play this game and talk to people about this game? Well, you can't really blame them when this game is marketed as a $4 cube game for young kids. Can you figure out whose fault it actually is? RobTop. He is the developer of Geometry Dash. He is the one sitting idly while influential people from his game groom young children who play his game. Sure, he can't go to every pedophile's house and beat them senseless, but has he ever tried to use the supreme influence he has to warn young children, to warn their parents, to encourage people to speak out against pedophiles? No, because then parents would stop buying this game for their kids and RobTop would make less millions. Out of greed, RobTop is complicit in the sexual exploitation of children within the GD community. You hear that? RobTop enables pedophilia. It's time to start a revolt against this tyrant. You know what to do, Twitter. Start some hashtags, post it everywhere. I know the power of obsessive Geometry Dash players. For once, they might have a positive impact. If we hold RobTop accountable, we can force him to act. With RobTop cornered, we finally have the influence necessary to cure GD. But how can we stop groomers in their tracks, curb GD's toxic reproductive cycle, fix the game's flawed standards, and save the community from addiction? To me, there seems to be one all-encompassing solution. Give Geometry Dash an age rating. Yeah, you heard me right. This game is simply too dangerous for little Timmy to be playing. RobTop, you're gonna have to make do with the millions you currently have, because we're gonna stop young children getting trapped in your game. Would an age rating work? Well, it doesn't need to work in the literal sense. We can prevent young kids from getting the game, but what we can do is increase the mental age of the community. Because people in this community are a lot older than they act, given that they've been stuck playing a kids game for years. With an age rating, the sentiment is that this game includes mature themes, and it would to a much greater degree than it does now. People would actually have an incentive to make mature levels because they would have the possibility of getting rated. People would be more open to discuss mature themes, and over time, the community would get older. People in their late teens would find it funny that a $4 cube game could feature graphic content, and might buy it out of curiosity. Conversely, any younger kids who wanted to play a cool, mature game would much sooner download Call of Duty than something like Geometry Dash. Eventually, every child will be kept safely away from the Geometry Dash community, and grooming will cease entirely. But not just that. Every problem I previously mentioned will be solved by an age rating. The elites will no longer have an army of impressionable children at their disposal, and their influence on community standards would decline. People would be more accepting of new ideas, and all of the innovations I previously mentioned would become their own trends. Sure, trends would still exist, but I think that people would be much wary of them. People wouldn't want to do the same thing over and over again. People wouldn't want to play this game in vain and waste their life. People would stop joking about their lives and strive to be better. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Support the Geometry Dash age rating, and we can cure GD. After years of dreaming, months of researching, weeks of scripting, and days of editing, I finally finished this video. I sacrificed time which I could have spent studying for school or talking to my friends. But I didn't surrender these things for something wasteful like GD. This video has been my passion and my duty. I pushed past doubts, that I was incorrect, that I was bitter and resentful, that this project would result in nothing. Because sometimes you just have to see something through. I may have been wrong. That's your call. But believe one thing if nothing else. I did what I thought was right for our community. The reason I made this video lambasting this game and its player base is because I want to see them flourish. I may hate GD, but I love Geometry Dash. I love that a platformer so vastly different to any other can have a creating community in the millions. I love that the developer, as critical as I am of him, doesn't have a massive PR team or a massive censorship team. I love this game because I grew up with it, and it broke my heart to see a game which I loved become so harmful. That pain is what resulted in this video. Now that the video is complete, the pain has soothed. And after so many years, I can finally say, I have found closure in Geometry Dash. Or have I?